So I haven't missed out on much, but I will tell you that the reason for that is incredibly rigorous time management. And as I'm listening to people talk, I will also say that during the life of an organization, how you manage your time and what you do changes pretty dramatically. So when I first was the CFO of a small consumer electronics company, I was actually personally reconciling bank statements because there was 1.5 people in the department. 2 years ago, when I took over as CEO of Twitter, there was 3,800 employees and probably about 100 executives who really ran the company. And I'll echo the point here that at that point, you're not focused on, as the organization gets big, you really do have to let go because you can't do it all. You really learn that your skill set has to be about building team, enabling people, making sure they're coached properly because you have to get things done through others. You can't do it anymore through the sheer dint of your own will. And that's actually a hard transition for lots of people to make. And I will tell you that in 1998, we got Twitter public, and a lot of it, I would look back on that and say, for those 6 months, I did miss a lot because it was the sheer dint of my own will doing the things that needed to happen in order to get that accomplished. 3 years later, as we were doing offerings, the company was 4 times the size. It was a completely different exercise. It was really about managing disparate teams of people. So in terms of how to manage your own life, I guess what I would say is there's clearly, I don't know a successful person who hasn't figured out how to manage the drain that comes on their life, because it does. So, for example, and I think I've heard this echoed from lots of people here, you learn to do with less sleep. So the way I did this when my kids were young was I would be at my desk at 5 in the morning. And sometimes I would come home, then if I had an obligation to do, and then go back to work. The key for my family really became the schedule. My children knew that if their event wasn't on the schedule, I wasn't coming. Right? I mean, just the way it works, because I flew last year 175,000 miles. I think it was going 160 days of the year. So I traveled constantly, but we had a large national organization, and that's what the job requires. So, but you're in control of the schedule. So the trick to all that really became planning. And so I needed to know as soon as I could. And my wife knew I had really lost my mind one day when I was really giving my kid's school principal a hard time because he hadn't published next year's calendar yet. And I was unable to plan. And my planning was out ahead of theirs. And I felt a little pressure on the arm as we put it. So that might have been a little extreme, but when you're running any kind of an organization that is growing and successful, and you'll hear this again and again, you've got to figure out how to carve out 70 or 80 hours out of your week. Now, some weeks it might be 60, some weeks it might be 80, and you'll have to balance that among all of your other obligations. But it's doable. It just requires a tremendous amount of discipline in terms of time management. And if I can make one other comment that came, I wish it had come earlier in life, came later in life, is that the other thing that's very important to do is the choices of what it is you're going to work on. And the person you have to be the most disciplined about with that is yourself. Because the first person you'll lie to is yourself about what's important. And this is really key if you're running a business, because we all have things that we prefer to work on over other things. Some things are unpleasant to us, some things we find fun, but in your universe of what you need to do, you need to get all of them done. So being rigorous and disciplined, if you've got 80 requests and you know that you're going to be able to do 20 of them, picking the right 20, and those 20 may not be the 20 things you like, but they're the 20 things that your business or your organization really needs you to work on. That is as critical as time management as is the actual mechanics of schedules.
Very true, very true. So you've managed to work it out.
I think it's doable, but it is a constant high wire act.
Still?
No.
Get it?
The last 30 days have been pretty easy.
Beautiful.